We're looking at some interesting team-specific future bets for the 2021 NFL season. First off, would love to get your first impressions here from the opening weekend of NFL preseason action. Biggest takeaway for you, Geoff Ulrich, was what?
I mean, just the play of the quarterbacks. I thought most of the new quarterbacks or the rookie quarterbacks class looked fairly settled. I mean, I think this is going to be a theme. You had Justin Fields coming in looking like he had been in the NFL for a couple years. Even Kenny's boy, Zach Wilson, looked good in spurts. But, Jacob Eason also had a very strong showing, which I think shocked a few people. So that was the biggest takeaway from me. Don't sleep on the rookie QBs because these guys are going to be playing sooner than later.
AJ, who or what impressed you the most week one NFL preseason action?
I'm with Geoff here. I looked at some of the QBs. I'm just, it's too early to read too much into it the first week of preseason, but I do think it's somewhat significant that Trevor Lawrence started over Gardner Minshew. That's a situation that I think we need to watch over the next 2 weeks. And I know Jeff's going to love hearing this, but I was kind of impressed with Drew Lock's performance in that game. 5 for 7, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. Teddy Bridgewater looks out as well, but I think there's certainly a possibility here that we're going to see, Drew Lock be the guy there week one. I thought maybe Teddy would give him a run, and that's certainly still possible in a few more weeks, but he definitely did what he had to hold the line, that's for sure.
Kenny, what are you overreacting to? Anything at all?
Yeah, this is why it's in my contract that I don't do segments with AJ because, I was all ready to talk about Drew Lock, how good he looked. Geoff makes fun of me all the time because I love Drew Lock. This guy looked fantastic. This is someone that at the end of last season admitted to reporters that he wasn't sure if he was going to have this job next year. He said, look, it's a business. Whatever happens, I'm paraphrasing, of course, I'm just going to have to deal with it. He was completely in understanding if the Broncos wanted to trade up and draft a quarterback. He ends up looking fantastic. He throws that bomb to KJ Hamler. And I think that he can absolutely take hold of this quarterback position. Teddy Bridgewater hasn't done anything since he was at Louisville. I think that I think he's one of the stories of preseason so far. Also, Justin Fields. Geoff and I were talking before the show. Justin Fields looked fantastic. Really the whole Bears team did as well, the whole Bears offense. But he ran the ball. He ran for 33 yards. He ran, I believe, 5 times. And that's a big development because he didn't really run that much at Ohio State. I think that, he's a mobile guy. But if they're going to have him run, that's a new element to Justin Fields' game. And I don't know if we really anticipated being there. But he looked fantastic, with the legs and with the arm. And I think he should absolutely start week one.
Kenny, what will you be looking for in this next wave of preseason games? So it'll be week 2 coming up. Remember, there's only 3 preseason games this year.
Probably your boy, Trevor Lawrence. He didn't have a great first game. And I think that I'd like to, I'm sure that he'll have his highlight reel play that, everyone's like, oh my goodness, no one's ever done this in the history of mankind.
Yep.
And that'll be fantastic. I'm sure Zach Wilson as well. I'd like to see more Zach Wilson, but I think just in general, what I'm looking for is, hey, where are all the starting quarterbacks? I think that we're eventually going to start to see them as the preseason wears on. We didn't really see many people that we cared about in the first week of the preseason. I wanted to be all pessimistic when you asked me what my takeaways were. But yeah, I'm excited to see more players get on the field. That'll be fun.
What about you, AJ?
Yeah, similar. More players. I think this is where you can start maybe looking at touches for running backs in those kind of, competing job spots, who's getting more carries, who's, lining up in third down situations. I think you can start to see some trends after week 2 and some idea of how that might work going forward. Same with targets for wide receivers and tight ends. Like week 1 is not the week to be looking at that. Your starting guys aren't going to see a lot. They're trying to figure out who's going to be the 6th or, 7th wide receiver or 5th, whatever it may be. And so I think you can start to maybe evaluate some of those trends after a full second week.
Geoff, what do you want to see this week in the next wave of NFL preseason games?
Yeah, I mean, these guys touched on it. We want to see more players on the field. Specifically, there's a couple players, though, I'll mention. I mean, Bryan Edwards is one guy with the Raiders. I don't think most people are thinking about Bryan Edwards a ton, but this guy, by all means, has kind of sewn up like a starting wide receiver job in camp. He's getting a ton of hype. He was drafted as a number 1 wide receiver potentially by the Raiders. I thought it was a really good pick last year. I want to see him on the field and see if this hype matches reality because he could potentially be a huge late-round sleeper. I also want to see if Cole Kmet, who had some really good usage in the first preseason game, if that carries over and he gets run with the starters again. So players like that, we want to see more of them. Like AJ said, this is the week 2 preseason, when you can start to maybe make some decisions based on this usage. So a couple players there specifically I want to see.
Yeah, I was going to ask you real quick, Geoff. I know previously when there were only 4 preseason games, like the third week was really the most important. Game plans were handed out. You tried to emulate like a game week in practice. Starters had the most reps. So does week 2 probably become the most important now that there's only 3 games?
For me, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a team-by-team thing, right? Like, there could be, like, maybe in Denver, we might see the quarterback battle bleed into week 3. It's possible. But I think for a lot of teams especially, like, week 2 is going to be it. It's the dress rehearsal. It's the week you got to pay attention. Those are when the snap counts and the usage is going to count. If a guy is going out with the first in week 2, it's a really good sign, for most teams. So, yeah, I would look at week 2 as like the week where you really want to pay attention.
I think that's why you're seeing a lot of teams. There's more than half the league. I think around 21 that are doing at least one joint practice with another team this week as well. Let's get to team specials. Here we go. Here's a team that's doing a joint practice. The Eagles doing one with the Patriots as we speak. Jalen Hurts will get his first full season as the Eagles starter, and he'll be paired up with former Bama teammate here, Devontae Smith. Smith has missed time with a knee injury, did not play in the preseason opener, but head coach Nick Sirianni upgraded him from week to week to day, making some progress here. If healthy, though, do you like Devontae Smith to have more than 999.5 regular season receiving yards at plus 300 odds, AJ?
That's such a big ask for a rookie coming into the league, in my opinion, but you add the knee injury, and I'm just not sold on it this season, even with the extra game here. He obviously hit that mark in each of his previous 2 seasons playing at Alabama, but we're talking about a whole different ballgame in terms of the level of defensive back play he's going to be up against. I think I would maybe consider taking this next season. If he goes this year healthy, knee doesn't, flare up or cause any additional problems, he gets his, feet wet in a first full season. But as a rookie, I'm just too hesitant on that to put any action here.
What about you, Kenny? Can you have like a Justin Jefferson type campaign?
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. Justin Jefferson had a fantastic year last year. I just don't see it just like AJ. I'm not even concerned about the injury, really. I mean, obviously I am, but like that's not the reason. I just think that these odds are not really fair. I think that I would want like plus 500 odds on this maybe. And when you look at the realistic probability that this happens, not only is he competing for targets with Jalen Reagor, who they're expecting a lot of in year 2, Greg Ward, Travis Fulgham and Greg Ward were 2 guys that were getting the ball a whole lot from Jalen Hurts. Now you're also mixing back in Zach Ertz to the conversation. Dallas Goedert was a favorite target of Jalen Hurts as well. And, he's going to be competing for targets. You also have the fact that Jalen Hurts, we're not even sure if he's going to be the starter for the whole year. Like, I have no idea. I thought he looked great last year. Now there's all these conversations about is he the quarterback of the future? We haven't seen a ton from him. He could be, but I think that we just really are not in a position right now to be hammering Devontae Smith to have 1,000-yard season. There's just way too many factors at play here. And also, how about the fact that they might just decide to run the ball half the time because they have a young quarterback? They could do that too.
Geoff, do you agree there's just way too many factors here, so you're just going to fade this bet?
No, you know what? I'm not. I mean, I kind of thought the same way. I mean, I do think that they're going to be a bit of a run-heavy team with Hurts and stuff like that. But look, you look at Devontae Smith, this player just, I don't know why people keep underrating him. He had one of the best seasons as a wide receiver ever in college football. People like to get scared because he's small, but Kenny went over the depth chart of the Eagles wide receivers, and I'm sorry, the talent gap between Devonta Smith and the rest of the Eagles wide receivers is so ridiculously big that Devontae Smith is going to get targets. And yeah, Ertz is there, and I think that does stink a little bit for his usage, but this is a player who makes big plays, Devontae Smith. And you pair him with a guy like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had the largest average depth of target in the NFL last year, over 10 yards. That's because Jalen Hurts keeps plays alive, and he looks downfield. Jalen Hurts is an underrated quarterback, in my opinion. He looked good in his first preseason start. This is all about if Devontae Smith can stay on the field. But at plus 300, I think the odds are good enough. I like this one. I really like this combo, Hurts and Smith. I think if they stay healthy, if they stay on the field, he will reach over 1,000 yards this year.
Moving on to America's team, the Jaguars, and our Lord and Savior, Trevor Lawrence, making his preseason debut this weekend in a loss to the Browns. We already know how Kenny feels about him, going 6 for 9, 71 yards. Obviously, high hopes for this dude, sky-high hopes, but are the hopes presented by this prop too high in your eyes, AJ. Plus 1,000 for Trevor Lawrence to break both the rookie record for passing yards, so nearly 4,400 yards, and then rookie record for passing touchdowns, talking 32 plus here. Is that too much to ask from the #1 overall pick?
I'm very high on Trevor Lawrence heading into the season. I think he's primed to start week 1, which is certainly good for hitting these props. Look, I'll put it this way. I'm high enough on Trevor Lawrence that maybe I'll test the waters at plus 1,000, but would I recommend others do it, or am I putting the kids, a college fund on it? Absolutely not here. I think he can be a good fantasy QB in season-long formats. I think the yardage will be there, especially if they're playing from behind, a la Blake Bortles, who was a fantasy stud for years for, garbage time yardage. And I think there's spots to use him in DFS too. Week 1 versus the Texans, if he's starting, I definitely think Trevor Lawrence is a guy to look at there. But I think it's going to be a long shot for him to break both these odds, and you're certainly accepting plenty of risk at plus 1,000. So I might do it, but I'm not going to suggest that others should.
All right, well, Geoff, you have 2 kids, so explain to us why you are putting both of their college funds on this bet.
Well, I mean, look, they don't need to go to college. I mean, they'll be fine, But no, look, in all seriousness, I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be absolutely fine. I actually like the getting the Marvin Jones in there to help the passing offense. I just look, and it's mainly the passing touchdown total that really irks me here. Over 32 passing touchdowns. I think that the passing yards could potentially be there. Jacksonville projects as a team. They're still probably going to be down in enough games, but you look at what Urban Meyer wants to do. He drafted an RB early. I think you're going to see more running, especially in the red zone. I think they're actually going to use Lawrence more as a runner in the red zone eventually too. So I just don't think the passing touchdowns are going to get there. The plus 1,000 odds, like AJ said, they do kind of seem like they're worth a sprinkle. But for me, I'm going to pass on this one. This is one I would avoid personally because I just think that passing touchdown total way too big.
Kenny, chasing or fading this one, and which part of it scares you the most?
I love that Geoff is irked by an exotic prop. I kind of am irked also, really. I think that this is outrageous. I agree that perhaps he breaks one of these records, the yardage, but I don't know if he breaks both. And, to Geoff's point, I mean, not only do they have James Robinson, who was fantastic last year, they brought in Carlos Hyde, and they drafted Travis Etienne, who, again, might be their third down back. They're loaded. Dare Ngubawale was also really good last year, right? They're loaded at running back. I just don't know if they're going to have Trevor Lawrence throw that much. And they also could have Trevor Lawrence just run the read option with Etienne or whatever. Trevor Lawrence is going to run too. I don't know if the passing volume is going to be there for him to get there. The passing volume is not going to reach the volume that his hair has, Emerson. I don't think he's going to be able to get to that total.